The Blue Line Voice. Blood, sand, and smoke.
If you're according to OSHA, any fire department, I don't care if you're paid or volunteer, there's 5 levels of training in under OSHA for hazmat: awareness, operational, technician, specialist, and incident commander. As an example, the cop will be trained to the awareness level. Usually a 4-hour program, show them what a diamond is. You know, remember, my cousin and uncles were cops, so I used to tell them there's 3 things you guys can do at a chemical emergency, and that's handcuff it, shoot it, or read it its rights. Other than that, you better call a fire guy, you know. So that was simply a recognize. Operational, according to OSHA, says if you're a fire department and the bay door opens, you're operational. Now, originally, that was the 4 Ds: damn it, dike, defensive, and basic decon. That's where most fire departments should be. So it's still a defensive tactic. When you get to offensive, that's where the technicians are. And that's where I spent most of my career training. Technician level hazmat teams after 9/11, Pentagon Protection Force, CIA, National Security Agency, because one of the things I developed was a system that works. And there's a lot of fire departments use my system. So that coupled with the hazmat background basically led me to where I was. You know, instrumentation. I was taking a class. They made me take a class up in Massachusetts on taking samples. I said, you guys do know that I was like one of the reviewers of this program. You know, when they moved to the city of Stamford, hazmat went down. I go, you don't have this. I said, I helped develop it. No, you got to go. Okay. So I go to Massachusetts. I'm parked behind the van. 5 of the 6 people that get out of the van to teach have been students of mine. So I get out, they look at me, I look at them, and I'll never forget it. The hazmat coordinator from Buffalo, New York looks at me, he goes, you're not going to be an asshole, are you? I said, you're not going to tell me anything that's not true, are you? He goes, it's going to be a long 3 days, you know? So we go in the class, and like most FEMA classes, NFA, everybody introduce themselves. You know, where are you from? How long you been in the service? What do you want from this program? Well, freaking Fitzpatrick passes me over. Okay, I'm checking my head. Shots fired. He takes out this ratty old binder, wire bound, and he's flipping, and he finds it, and he hands it to a kid in the front row. He goes, read that for me. The kid goes, 203-722-0791. And then Fitzpatrick goes, whose phone number is that? I raised my hand. He goes to the kid, now read what it says next to it. Hazmat meter expert. You know, that's the kind of calls I would get. We're at a building. The numbers don't make sense. Why are we seeing these hits on a colorimetric tube? Why is it driving us down this arena? So that, you know, and when we did a lot of work for the 3-letter agencies, but my wife teaches radiation, they have our numbers. And we get called, I wouldn't say frequently, but frequently enough where they say, because they can't tell me. So it's, well, if they were going to use this chemical, what meter would work? I said, all right, give me a couple hours. I'll lay all this stuff out for you. So that's a really neat place to be when the troops know that there's, you know, when I work with the infrared stuff, we used to call it reach back. Boy, that's a great word. I love that. I can't, you know, the troops in the street can't get it, may not be able to put the puzzle together, but I got a guy, who can help us through that. And we did a lot of that.